It's me, Nicole Russin-McFarland. A little bit of a shorter episode right now. Motivation, right? Okay, multitasking. There is a myth, and this is a podcast, once again, geared towards men and women equally. But there's a myth that women are better at multitasking. And I say, I am female, and I don't know what you were talking about. There's a bubble above my head, like a comic book thought bubble with a question mark. What? Because that's how I feel. And I feel like saying, maybe you and I have different interpretations of multitasking, because I Googled for the sake of this podcast, finding out what do they mean. And I read things like so-and-so is running on a treadmill while she is texting and thinking up ideas, watching TV. Like, to me, that's not really multitasking, although it is by technical definition, for one reason, and that is you're really using low brain activity to do all those things. Apart from maybe think of, brainstorming. Apart from that, everything else is a super low level thing. Like, how much energy does it cause in your brain to run on a treadmill? That's a caveman thing, like you're on automatic. How much energy does it take to watch TV? Not really anything. You're a couch potato, but on a treadmill, like your brain's being a couch brain. To text people, that's pretty dull. Doesn't require skills. And brainstorming, I mean, you might brainstorm, but really, how good of a job are you going to do if you're like, oh, I'm going to imitate jogging right now, like, oh my God. And you're like, no, that's just asking for a disaster. Whereas if you are focused on one thing at a time, you're a surgeon. And I'm going to get to my point with this. Like I said, this podcast is geared towards male and female listeners, primarily towards those in the arts, but anybody could gain from this. Okay, so say there's a plastic surgeon. You've been in a car wreck, and the plastic surgeon is multitasking. He's chewing gum in the operating room, and he's texting, and he's jogging on a treadmill. And then he's looking at your crushed face and saying, like, I don't know what I could do. Maybe nurse. And Dr. Smith, you could put that there. And Dr. Jones, who's also a plastic surgeon, reconstructive, is collaborating. And you're just like, oh, I got a text from my wife. She wants more Domino's pizza. Well, I guess I could schedule one. Do you really entrust your face to those surgeons who are all multitasking, if that's the definition? No, you don't. And I hope you don't. I also hope there are no surgeons out there doing that, because that's really bad. Sorry if you're doing that. Although, I guess it's better your face than your brain, but I don't want that to be me. So let's say, in terms of your creative spirit, in my case, filmmaking, film score composing, whatever, say I'm working on a film score. Do I really want to be spreading myself thin and then be texting, being on a treadmill, like, oh, BPM is going to be like dun, dun, dun. And then I'm writing all this stuff, and I'm going to write, the counter melody to my melody, and it's on the treadmill. No, that's disgusting. And it will sound terrible. Say it sounds okay. It might be okay, but it's not going to be good, or at least good in my interpretation. So, or, say I'm writing a script or animating or whatever, you don't do a good job. If you do a good job, you're hyper concentrated. And if you're doing something like surgery, like discovering scientific innovation, whatever that may be, the cure for cancer, for instance, you don't want your focus elsewhere, because you will never discover the cure for anything. If you're writing a script, you don't want your mind to wander. You don't want, say at a typewriter maybe, but you don't want to be at the Cheesecake Factory, like, I'll have a Diet Coke and this salad and the soup and whatever. You don't want that. It's not contributing to your well-being, and it's certainly not contributing to the well-being of your intellectual capacity, because scientifically, your brain has different parts that are activated. And I always like involving science. So let's say one part of your brain is thinking, one hemisphere. And you suddenly, and this is why I don't like school the way it's taught in the United States, because at school you go from math to science to drawing to history to this, and then your brain gets scrambled and its functions and you don't know what to do. So say that you're working on a project and, like I said, I'm composing and I'm using one part of my brain to compose, write music, whatever. I'm not going to go off drawing. I'm not going to go off writing podcast episodes. I'm not going to write a script. I'm not going to do anything apart from composing for that day. Because, and also ideally, composing until I'm done with that specific song or film score or whatever, whatever it is. Say I'm producing a rap for Nicki Minaj and I'm down in the studio with her for a week. That week, I'm not going to be doing anything but focusing on music. Now, say I'm working on music for, Jay-Z and Nicki. Maybe I'm working on Drake and Tyga. Okay, it's all music related. I can do it. Maybe write some lyrics, but I'm not going to be writing a script or doing things or worse, thinking about unrelated things or subjects, because that will send my brain into a scramble and make it a scrambled egg, and I won't know what I'm doing anymore. And that's the beauty of working with one thing at a time. You can work within the constructive elements of that weekly job duty, that daily job duty, but you don't go around hopping from thing to thing because multitasking doesn't work. So the minute for you, like realistically, many people go to school and have day jobs. If you are actors and musicians, but when you get home from your day job, stop what you're doing and do whatever it is. And if you can't because you have children, you have a sick uncle or whatever, schedule a time for you to do that and focus only on your song, your acting auditions, whatever it is. Focus and focus with a laser because you want to do a really good job and be the surgeon who doesn't botch people's faces. Be the surgeon who makes you look amazing after a car wreck, not the guy who makes you look like the car wreck was better. You know what I mean? And that's a term in terms of your career. That's an analogy because you don't want to be the person who looks better after the car wreck than the surgery. Be the person who has this beautiful career because everything is done with such a perfection that you set aside time to have that perfection and you do it until it's right. And it's not just perfectionism. It's about committing and making sure you're focused and don't multitask. Don't believe anything about multitasking. Multitaskers are not solving intense problems. They're just doing like trivial things. Like I'm shopping for M&Ms as I'm pushing a cart, as I have a baby in the cart who's squealing because he or she wants a carrot. That's not multitasking. It's just life. And multitasking is, if you apply it actually to your work and your career, you don't want that. So let that be the lesson for the day. Never multitask.